Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Dr. Mohammad Sohail Khan. In this particular session, I will be talking about what is organizational development. So what is OD? If I just try to explain in a very simple words, so OD facilitates change. So once we heard about OD or once we heard about organizational developments, somehow there's a concept of change embedded into that word. Again, but change in terms of what? So, for example, if we just see around us, organizations are being impacted from the change every day. So, for example, change can be with respect to challenging economic times. So, for example, if an organization is being impacted in terms of financial terms. If we just see another term, so for example, and it is about merger and acquisition. So merger acquisitions means that if one organization has been merged or being acquired by another organization, so that's particularly a change for both the organization. And then there's a whole concept of continuous improvement. For the sake of simplicity, we just say the continuous improvement in terms of all the work that is being done in the organization. So that will be included all the task analysis or the work design, even the organizational structures as well. So somehow if we just see from those three aspects of change, so there can be financial change, so because of the economic downturn of the economic activity of the world. Then there may be a structural change because of the merger and acquisition, and then somehow if the work design have been changed in some way, so that can be a result of the continuous improvement. Another wording that basically attached to OD is about the change agent. So in very simple word, change agent basically helps the organization in terms of fostering the organizational environment so that the change can occur in that particular organization, because at the same time they need somehow help of their employees as well. So they help to foster that environment and they help the employees to adopt that change at the same time. So two words I think so would be really easy to remember in terms of OD. First, change. Second, change agent. However, if we just looked at the theoretical definitions of OD, so for example, what are some theoretical lenses in the management literature that COD, like from which sense they COD. Now we'll see some of the theoretical definitions of OD. So how OD is being defined in the management or organizational literature. So according to the Burke's definition, OD is a planned process of change in an organization culture through the utilization of behavioral science, technology, research, and theory. So once we are looking at those definitions, we have to think in a way that from which lens those definitions have been written down. So for example, at this time, if we just clearly look at these definitions, we'll find that Burke is basically talking about the planned process of change. So for example, according to Burke, OD is a planned process of change. So for example, it's not something that is happening without knowing, or it's not an unplanned activity. So planned process of change in an organizational culture. So for example, according to the Burke, or from Burke's lens, organizational development is basically needs organizational development is a kind of change that needs to embed it in the organizational culture as well. By utilizing what? By utilizing the behavioral science theory, by utilizing the technology, by utilizing the research. So if we just think in a way that what kind of component that Burke will be referring to, and just compare it with the organization. So for example, if Burke is referring to utilization of behavioral science, so it means that there is some kind of human involvement in that. So Burke is basically referring that organizational development is a process of change in the organizational culture, but there is some kind of human involvement as well. At the same time, there is an involvement of technology as well. So I think so we do not see technology in a very minute way. Technology is basically about the work design as well. So once we're talking about the work design, we are also referring to the technology per se. So behavioral science and technology at the same time. Second, we have a definition from French, and that is kind of a very popular definition in terms of defining OD. According to French, OD refers to a long-range effort. So somehow that definition is kind of different in a way that it automatically refers to the long range of OD. So once we are talking about OD, we are thinking in terms of future terms, where we are not expecting the results to be we are not expecting to get the results in very shorter terms. So it's a long range effort. So once it's a long range effort, definitely we'll be receiving the results of those efforts after a longer period of time as well. To improve an organization's problem solving capability. So somehow now French is defining that it is an effort in terms of organization, it is an effort in terms of improving organization's capability in terms of their problem solving. So for example, we can say that in terms of decision making and its ability to cope with the change in its external environment with the help of external or internal behavioral scientist consultants. At this time we are just talking about what? Agents here. So Burke is French is basically talking about OD agent in terms of behavioral scientist. So for example, that can be an OD consultant or an OD agent. So different text basically uses different wordings. So according to the French, long range organizational capability or improving organizational capability so that they can cope with the changes of external environment. Again, one more definition, and that is from Backwards. So Backwards define organizational development as a planned change. Okay, planned change, that would be definitely organizational wide. So it's planned change, but it would be organizational wide, managed from the top. That is the most important thing. So for organizational development, you need a support from top executive. So it's kind of a trickle down effect. So once your top managers or the top management is somehow on the same plan or in the same sheet that we have to change in terms of increasing our organizational capability in terms of everything. For example, in terms of increasing the organization capability so that they can have more profit, so that they can have different products, so they can have a variety of products. For example, they can reach to different market, whether there is a change of strategy, whether there is a change of dynamics in organization. So this area in terms of getting the support from top management is really important, and definitely for the sake of organizational effectiveness, again through a planned intervention. So I think so. The common things that we are getting at this time is planned, organizational wide, getting some sort of support from the top, and it is basically for improving organizational effectiveness. And definitely one more thing, using behavioral science knowledge. So whenever there's a discussion of behavioral science knowledge in terms of organizational literature, somehow that literature is basically referring to the employees, because behavioral science means that we are basically studying some kind of behavioral activities of humans in that. This definition is from Beers, and Beers define OD as a system-wide process. Again, system-wide process of collection of data collection, diagnosis, action planning, intervention, and evaluation. So somehow OD is a long-term process in which we need data. So we need to have a data collection, diagnosis. So for example, once an OD consultant diagnose some kind of intervention, so we are talking about that. Action planning. So for example, we are thinking about the action, we are recording the action, we are kind of gathering the data about the action that has been done in the organization, interventions, and the last part is about evaluation. So lots of big words here: data collection, diagnosis, action planning, intervention, and evaluation. Aimed at, so what is the aim for OD? Enhancing the congruence. Congruence means like congruence between organizational structure. Congruence means alignment in that sense. So enhancing congruence between organizational structure, process, strategy, people, culture, and definition. In terms of developing new and creative organizational solution, developing the organizational self-renewing capacity. It occurs through collaboration of organizational members, working with change agents using behavioral science theory, research, and technology. Wow, I think so. This is also a big definition, and that covers really everything. So for example, according to this definition, we are talking about congruence or alignment between the organizational structures, between the process, between the strategy, people, and culture. So for example, just think about this point in detail. So once we are talking about the change of strategy, we are also talking about the change of organizational structure. So for example, let's take an example. For example, my organization was typically was following a value based strategy. However, now because of the environmental change or because of the globalization change, my organization is now following a low cost strategy. So from value enhancement strategy, I'm coming towards the low cost strategy. So even just thinking about that way, so from if there is a strategical change, I need to change the organizational structure as well. So for example, maybe before I was having a flexible organizational structure, but however, once I need to change my strategy to low cost strategy, maybe hierarchical structure or functional structures suit those kinds of strategy. So it is basically a congruence, like an alignment from the organizational strategy. So once I have my organizational strategy, I need to change the organizational structure as well. I need to change the organizational process as well. I need to change the operational strategy as well. So I need to align my low cost strategy with all the operations that I have in my organization. And similarly, my employee needs to understand those strategical change as well. So I need to embed that strategical change into the culture of the organization. So if we just think about the first point, it is a long-term change where we need a lot of data. Secondly, for the purpose of creating or developing or creative organizational solution. I think so. I already talked about that. So, for example, if there's a change in strategy, definitely that change will be because of some new development or new development in terms of either products or in terms of market. So, for example, either I am trying to produce or my organization is trying to produce a new products in an old market, or a new product in a new market, or a old product in a new market. So somehow the strategical change happens because of those things. Secondly, developing the organizational self-renewing capacity. So somehow it also talks about the organizational capacity. So for example, there is an element that is embedded to increase the organizational capacity. So when I'm talking about organizational capacity, that would be maybe in terms of increasing the capacity in terms of people skills, people career, or maybe in terms of financial capacity, or maybe in terms of capacity so that I can produce the goods in a very short period of time. So capacity can be anything. However, those capacity definitely referring to some kinds of skills of my employee, or somehow changing the nature of the way how I am running my organization. It occurs through the collaboration of organizational members working with the change agent. Again, this is really important point, whether there's a need for collaboration in terms of organization members. So somehow that collaboration also needs a support from the organizational members. Now, organizational members can be anything. So for example, that organization members is what I'm expecting here would be from the CEO to the president, from the president with the vice president of different functions. So for example, vice president of marketing, vice president of operations, vice president of HR, vice president of manufacturing. So, and then the trickle down effect to the different units of those vice presidents. So for example, my marketing department or function will also adopt that kind of change. So just think in a way that organization is a structure. An organization is a structure. However, there are different kinds of people who works in that. So we need that kind of support from organizational members so that we can adopt that change. Again, if I just try to review the different definitions, I would say the common theme would be change, long-term strategies, long-term effect, inclusion of organizational members, using of some behavioral science theories. We are talking about the research here. We are talking about the technology here. We are talking about organizational design here. So if I just go and try to wrap up, I think so the major takeaway would be, once there is a change in the organization, and that change can be because of different outside environmental effects. So for example, it may be a globalization, but at the end of the day, if there's a change that is happening in the organization, organizational development deals with that change, and for that change they need a support of organizational members. They need a support of OD professionals. They need a support from organizational hierarchical members. So for example, I'm talking about the CEOs here, I'm talking about the presidents, vice presidents, I'm talking about the heads of these functions as well. So if we just see a major takeaway would be the congruence or the alignment. So change needs alignment. Alignments mean if there's a change in organizational strategy, that change will be definitely translated into the change in operational strategy. That change will be also translated into the change in organizational structure, change in organizational process, change in the culture of the organization, where the new work designs, where the new strategy would be embedded in that culture, so that I do not need to reiterate each and every time, because it is already embedded in the culture. And definitely the key would be the collaboration of organizational members. So hopefully these definitions will give you some kind of perspective in terms of what is OD, how we define OD, what are the different lenses through which management literature has been seen OD. Thank you very much.